you are structured by what your society tells you, how your culture tells you how to do it.
Yeah, but that's a structure you can't get rid of.
And that I know. The way you can express yourself is culturally mediated.
Yeah, and I never said it's
structured.
I never said it's not.
Yeah.
The only structure I'm getting rid of is the final part where I'm going to present the art or I'm not going to present the art. Because that's the only part of self-expression where I actually have agency over it.
Yeah, it could both be culturally mediated and private.
If we accept that even art is, in this sense, that you are constrained by your culture when you're creating art and how you're self-expressing, you are always, when you are expressing yourself, meeting some expectations. That's a certain criterion for something to be considered art. And if you don't meet it, you're actually unsuccessful in expressing yourself.
But the same way we go to the toilet and there's a cultural criteria when you were successful at going to the toilet, right? So it still is a private thing to do, right?
Yeah. In that specific situation, we do exclude society from it.
And in that particular situation,
he
excludes art from...
He can't.
He can't.
I think you can.
He can, because...
Just like how you can include the public in your toilet going habits.
For example, say that you
can also exclude it from the artistic expression.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Bebeflapula Podcast. With us today is our now regular guest Primož and our special guest Martin, who is very special because he thinks that he creates art because of himself and he doesn't need public validation.
And also his mom told him so.
Yeah, also my psychiatrist told me so.
So that's what we're gonna talk about today. Does an artist need public validation or a public in general, or can he just create art for himself and be completely satisfied with that? Does that defy the purpose of art?
Does that define the artist as well?
Yeah. So
is art is defined by the act of creating art or by the fact that they present an artistic object to the public audience?
Well, what do you think?
Oh. Calling me out like that, huh? No, I believe that creating art is a process that defines the artist, and it's this process in itself that is important and not the final object that is usually presented to the audience. Like personally, when I do stuff, either photography, film or music or whatever, I enjoy the process, but in the end, when the piece is made, I usually toss it in a drawer and forget about it.
But is it art then, or is it something else?
That's what I want to ask you, yeah. Do you believe this is still art, or is art defined by the fact that you present it to the audience?
I would argue that art is like maybe a societal phenomenon where a bunch of people can find a consensus that something has a valuable thing to say about something, and that is what establishes art as an art piece. The fact that it gets presented in a certain context, like an art gallery or whatever, that people gather around it and agree that it's art. And if it's just in the drawer until it is not made public, it is not a piece of art, it is merely a piece of human creation.
What is it if it's not art?
Something that a human created but has not been granted the status of art yet, I would suppose.
Because I guess I could ask you directly, what is it for you? Like this, in this process as you're creating, what role does it play to be? I
usually see art and artistic process as a form of validating my own, let's say feelings, but not necessarily. It's more of a how I see myself and how I perceive myself, and I try to make this real or at least tangible through the artistic process.
Mm-hmm.
And once that is done, the goal of the art is reached for me.
But maybe then we could compare that to the act of writing a diary. You just externalize some feelings and you have this piece of externalized feelings now, but it's not art but if you publish it, it could potentially become art, but not until then, I would argue, I suppose. That's my thesis.
I'm not sure because I think all people who create art do it for similar reasons to what you've described in the actual process. So you're in a way working on yourself, on your thoughts, on your emotions, processing them through this, in this manner of trying to fashion some kind of an object, to externalize something that's inside you. I guess if you look at Kafka, he wrote a lot of things, but he wanted them all destroyed, as far as I know, after his death. So was he not an artist insofar as he wanted them to be destroyed, and only became an artist because his friend didn't respect his wishes and published his works against his wishes? I think that's kind of risky to say. I
agree.
Like to just exclude him just because he didn't want them to be published, although now they are universally regarded as art.
But maybe this fact of being universally regarded as act, this fact of his work entering the public, is what it made it art. But until that point, was it really a piece of art in this sense of the word? Is it not merely something that could be regarded as, I don't know, a sense of fictionalized diary or something?
Yeah, but isn't that art?
Yeah, isn't art anything
Why
that
isn't
you
that art?
create?
I don't know, I feel like art has this societal component that is very important, or even inherent to the art piece, the fact that it has a place in society, a certain place we call the artistic space, I suppose. And until then, it is just a work of human work that has the potential to become art.
Okay, but where does art and craftsmanship then meet?
Yeah, I think that's, I would say Kafka created some craftsmanship, let's say, and only when it entered the public it became art. And I think this act of becoming public, of being presented in a certain context and being regarded by people in a certain way, is what makes art into art. Because if we say any craftsmanship is art, then we lose the sense of what art is, no?
But say that you have all these works of Kafka in some basement somewhere, and they're not art as yet because nobody has seen them.
Yeah.
And then somebody goes into the basement and discovers all this stuff, and he sees it. Does it suddenly become art?
But that is literally what happened with Duchamp, no? He took like a urinal, and it was just craftsmanship, and he put it in a gallery, and it became art, and it became one of the biggest art pieces of the 20th century.
I'm not sure that's the same thing.
Yes.
Like he declared it to be
art, and other people agreed.
And other people,
I think that's
and we're not discussing that side of the art where people agree what is art and what is not. We're discussing the stuff that where we don't agree.
Kafka probably,
so, very well put.
Like Kafka probably thought that when he was creating these things that they were art. He was declaring them art as he was making them. They just weren't societally recognized as art.
I mean, what is art?
I would argue something that is declared as art and agreed upon to be art. I would argue, and I think that Duchamp kind of proved that, no? The fact that he can take an art, just an object, and put it in a certain setting, and then it becomes art.
No, he proved that you can take regular objects and turn them into art.
Yeah.
But he didn't prove that something can't ontologically be a work of art.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
Without having this wider societal impact.
Yeah. Okay. He proved one side of the argument. Yeah. The first part that.
Yeah. That part.
That part. Yeah,
whatever it is.
The part that
nicely put.
That a thing can be that a thing can become art if it's being declared as art. So the declaration of something being art is.
Yeah, but that's
one
not what
part
we're talking
of
about.
Art.
Yeah, the question is who has to declare this? Is it the artist or is it society?
I would say society.
Or is it the artistic piece in itself?
I don't believe
declare itself as
okay, that would be my thesis. I don't believe an art piece has any inherent quality to it that makes it art. I would think that being an art piece is something that comes from a common agreement that something should be regarded as a piece of art. For example, if I give that example of 3 stones by the river, somebody puts 3 stones on top of each other. It could be just a thing that somebody randomly made, but then somebody could come there and be like, oh wow, this is a critique of, I don't know, the instability of the human society, what the hell, and he could declare it into art, and then people could gather around, and yeah. The same with when somebody lost the
how
clock.
can you say that it has no
Inherence
in it? Like it is structured in a way. The actual configuration of objects, it has a structure.
But we could imagine
so that
in
it
theory,
is something that's internal to this entity that is the artwork.
But we could argue like hypothetically that these 3 stones just by chance could end up in a certain stimulating arrangement, and it would not be structured by any intention. It would just be a natural phenomenon. And we could still then regard it as art if we would declare it as art as such, no?
If an artist put his artistic intention into it,
like he could say
like
he found that and now it's art, yeah.
I don't think we would buy that. Like I actually think we would. No, that's you just found this. Did you do anything to it? He'd say no, I just found it, and we would deny this status of art. Because there wasn't sufficient artistic intention that he put into it. He didn't structure it as a work of art, and therefore it's neither a work of art in itself. It's not a work of art for him, nor is it a work.
It's cold, fuck it.
Nor is it a work of art for society. But so I don't think you can just say it's just society.
So you need some input from the artist for something to be art.
I think so, because
isn't that
it's artificial. It has to be artificial.
So joining his side, taking something found in the nature and putting it together will be sufficient enough.
Yeah,
to declare it art.
If you configure it, like Stonehenge, for example.
But what if you don't configure it? If it's just a ready-made object, which the Sham did.
Oh, but he had human input in there.
He did configure it.
How?
He put it in a museum.
Yeah, so that's a,
Yeah,
so
but
maybe we just can take anything and put it in the right.
Just
but
found
that's
some
the different part of the argument. Still, we're still focusing on the part of the argument where anything can be art if you put it in a gallery. Yeah, we all agree on that.
Yeah.
But I think
that fact proves the circumstance that the declaration of something being art is an important factor in what we consider art to be.
Yeah, but it's sufficient if just the artist declares it to be art.
But you find Kafka's manuscript in a basement. No one's ever seen it before. You read it and it still touches you. Is it not art because it was never declared art?
I mean, you can declare it art,
and
at
it
that
was declared art by Kafka.
Yeah,
actually.
Okay.
So it was already structured.
Okay, then you find.
So it's independent of society. It's I think something becomes art because of the artist's intention, but it can only become this because he structures it in a way in accordance with his inner expression. He expresses something through something and therefore structures it. But then this societal declaration is just, I don't know, extra. It's something that will maintain its longevity, maybe. Longevity.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever. We're Slavic.
We're Slavic. Fuck that.
Yeah, no problem. You
Two of us are wearing 3 striped Adidas and tracksuits.
I'm the only one who's actually getting dressed.
This is actually not kava, it's vodka.
Yeah.
Let's go, brother.
No, this is vodka. This is how we drink it in the Balkans. But except we're not in the Balkans. The Balkans begin south of
south of Slovenia.
South of Sava.
Yeah.
On one side women get raped and they don't like it. On the other side women get raped and they like
we
it.
should go back.
Anyway, you're gonna have to cut. That was a Slavoj Žižek reference.
Yeah.
This is why we weren't sure
what?
whether to bring him along.
Yeah. Like, for example, you walk down the road. And there's a person dancing. And let's say there's 2 situations. In one, there's a dancer who tries to express something with his dancing in the middle of the street. And then the second example would be a drunk person just, being drunk and Being drunk. so
This is a very classic Slovene situation. Usually find people on the
Yeah,
street.
yeah.
Usually both
One
of
is
them will be drunk.
artistically dancing, the other is
Yeah,
But both are drunk usually.
So how do we tell one from another? Do we ask, is this a performance art? And they say yes, and that's why we say, okay, this is an art piece.
No, I would say you decide. You look at it and you'll be like, oh wow.
like
So
each spectator.
Yeah, the spectator maybe. It's
So
like,
I have to
You can
decide.
decide.
yeah, you can decide.
So if I see someone working on the road, I can decide
You
that
can
this
be
is
like, wow.
a work of art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe if it
So
touches
art
you in
is
a way
relative.
to the observer.
It's completely subjective to each particular individual.
yeah,
How
sure.
he judges it, and so everything can be art for me.
Perhaps. Why
But
not?
doesn't that devalue the actual term art if everything is
No,
art?
it only devalues the term of art as a sociological phenomenon.
No, but
But you would still create
it's not
art
just
because
that,
you
it-
feel
like
the need to do it.
in your actual perception, if it's okay, if you say that you can always define what is a work of art just subjectively depending on how you perceive it, then this term becomes it encompasses everything. It's
Yeah, it's mine.
It's
Why
like saying
not?
everything is a table, because everything that I say is a table is a table.
Mm.
But why not?
Because then
I
somebody
mean, I'm sure it
can-
works in your
then somebody can come into, I don't know, you look at Picasso and he can say, this is not art at all.
Yeah,
But
okay.
there
But
seems to be something fairly
just his opinion.
unintuitive about
Their
that.
opinion.
But can they say that? Like,
Why not?
because then it completely negates, I think, this fact
But it
that maybe the concept of art is intersubjective rather than subjective. That's what I would argue, no? Like, why do we even talk about art if anything could be art and it's completely
Why do we have
relative?
this term in the first place?
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
did we
Why do we have
invent
art
it? Wasn't
galleries?
Wasn't the purpose of art to
Art
demarcate?
galleries, money laundering.
Wasn't it probably the reason that we came up with this word to distinguish something
Mm.
from something else? So we had a lot of, I guess, ancient Greece or something. They were making vases, the amphora, and in the beginning it was probably just practical, just for usage.
Mm.
But then someone took extra effort and tried to express something, like painting on it, and then we needed a term to say, okay, so why is this different? Why does it affect us in a very different way than something else? And then you call that art, except that the Greeks actually didn't have a separate word for art. It was techne, which was skill, craft,
Mhm.
both for artistic works and for craftsmanship, which kind of confirms my point that they hadn't yet found a way to distinguish it, and then we did.
Mhm.
Wasn't it until the 19th century that art was even not considered something special, but like with the Greeks, just craftsmanship?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess we could say that, but I mean, it didn't have a special word for it. But the other question is, was it considered the same as just craftsmanship? Actually perceived the same?
Mm.
I don't know, I wouldn't remember. That's more of a...
Well,
that's Aljoša's thing.
Yeah.
Well, I do.
I'm old.
What was that?
I was looking at the camera. That's an audience there, by the way. So hello.
Still working?
I don't know. Should I check?
I don't know. I'm kind of nervous.
Yeah,
last
I'm
time it
gonna-
didn't work.
I'm gonna check.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check the
Okay,
camera. I'm
go
gonna
check.
check on
I
our
mean,
audience
even if this
there's
wasn't recorded, did we really say
And
anything?
we can discuss in the meantime while Aljoša tries to.
Or we can discuss why the fuck is the floor so fucking muddy?
This is how we live here.
How we do it in
We
the
live in the
podcast.
mud.
That's how we do it in the podcast. We drink rakia from a big glass and bathe in mud.
It's recording.
It is the
Did you?
All three?
No, it's
even
not.
me?
It is not.
Even me?
I think it's
Hello?
recording. Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's so fucking cold.
Oh, Martin. I'm
Martin.
sorry.
Okay.
So,
Anyway, art.
Yeah.
Techne.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
Zizek would argue that art should be considered again in this original sense of just craftsmanship. He said that with all the subversions happening in the art world, we will get tired of all of the conceptual art and we will long for this beginning again, but art will be equated with craftsmanship. So that would be
But
his argument. But
I mean, wouldn't we just open the problem that we just try to argue, we try to get out of? So if we conceived of a term to distinguish like these special craftsmanship objects from the normal craftsmanship objects, and now we would just say, oh, it's actually the same. Are we losing something? I mean, Martin would say no.
Wow, you don't even need me here.
Let's argue in Martin's favor.
We will do it better. Do we need to distinguish art from craftsmanship objects?
I would say obviously yes. Even in like films, you watch like a really well-made art film, and then you watch just the most basic commercial stuff.
But
obviously,
and
there's a categorical
95% of people enjoy the commercial stuff more than the other. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously.
So, by your argument earlier, that would be art, and the.
What's the mic?
Well, hello. By your earlier argument, that would be considered art, but the artistic film would not.
I mean, I wouldn't democratize art entirely like that, maybe.
Oh, you would make an elite of experts that would agree and declare what is art and what is not.
I don't think you need
that.
That
Makes sense to me.
I don't think you actually need an elite, because society comes to these conclusions pretty spontaneously. It's just some works speak to a greater number of people and have this longevity.
Longevity.
That they maintain their status as special kinds of craftsmanship objects.
Yeah.
What was that?
What was the question? The question. Yeah. So art.
So you don't you don't need an elite like on the committee that's
but he was like he was telling us that he would not like to democratize art.
But maybe that's
Oh, now when he came up with the better argument, he's like, he's right. Yeah, that's what I meant.
I definitely wouldn't democratize it in this way. The most people like something that becomes art, but maybe with this extra like longevity component, maybe that makes sense. But you still maybe need but that's a different, or is it? Okay, maybe it's not a different argument. Like you need still somebody that takes special care in finding out.
But what gives them the credibility?
I suppose the same.
To decide what is right and what is not.
I suppose just
only God can do that.
The fact that they work with that they specialize in that they have some special knowledge about what makes craftsmanship
let's turn back to films.
Special.
Let's turn back to films.
Yeah.
There's people who work in the industry, they have so much knowledge about filmmaking and whatever. And
but not about film theory.
But isn't film theory, I mean, what's the point of film theory?
To distinguish art from...
Yeah, but again, who set up the rules of what is right and wrong in film theory?
Yeah, it's the same as in philosophy. You just try to make arguments and find yourself out of confusion and mistakes. And then there's some that I suppose find greater agreement about their theories.
Yeah, but it's again an elite of people who's like, yeah, we agree that what you consider a good film is a good film. So, that's a good film. And the rest of you
can try to argue against it, and until you succeed, if you obviously don't present any counter arguments, then maybe that's what art is.
So you're saying that you do need experts to determine what is art?
No, you need experts.
But
you need experts.
I think
I think so.
I mean,
you need a special kind of knowledge.
That would be difficult to argue even regarding the history of art, because I don't think there ever were experts that determine what constituted art.
But we just said that art is a fairly recent distinguished term.
It's I'd say it's a recent term, and maybe recently we started to control what is considered art in this more expert kind of manner. But I don't think we can use this recent practice to say how art can be judged in general, because that wasn't the case through most of history. Like there weren't these of course there were also people who were deciding, okay, this is not good enough, but there was also a lot of just public folk art. What do you say about a folk song? Is it a work of art? And the only thing speaking in its favor in a certain sense is that it was kept around for a long time. It had longevity.
My God.
What if you would work around this term?
No, I wanna. By the end of the podcast, I want to clear it up.
Longevity, I guess.
So longevity, I think it's longevity.
Probably.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments,
Yeah, let us know in the comments. Hey, chat, is it longevity or longevity?
So yeah, you have a lot of folk art, and I don't think you can just exclude that from art. That would be a too narrow.
That's a very elitist way of approaching art.
But do they exclude that? Usually theorists, do they not accommodate for this folk art? Yeah.
Recently.
They do.
In the last 100 years, yeah.
But the thing is that throughout history, it played the role and the function of art.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't play that function because an expert committee said, yeah, it can.
I see.
It just did spontaneously.
Yeah.
Because people perceived it as such.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good point. Yeah. So we don't need.
We don't
need an elite.
1 point
to tell us. Hey, you want to do against
Liberals
me? Oh my God.
Destroy.
Currently.
Oh my God.
it might turn around. I mean, because I still strongly disagree with what you're saying, that it's enough to just be expressing for oneself, which was our original question.
Yeah.
We're back at that again.
I mean, I guess it's the main problem that we set out to solve, because I find it very unintuitive that you could be creating art just for yourself without any kind of desire.
Okay, but don't you think that if you were the last person... sorry, I thought this was a debate. Jesus Christ.
What did you ask?
I'm just thinking if you're done or...
Let me finish.
My coffee. Anyway,
no,
so
if you're the last person alive, would you not create art anymore? If you knew that no one would ever see it.
Is the coffee not good?
No, the coffee is good.
Disgusting. You make it.
Hey.
It was
but I did only make it once.
It was cold.
What do you call the remains of coffee in English?
The ground.
The jots.
Yeah.
Anyway, try again.
No, you try again. No, but really, like if you're the last person in the world and you knew that no one would ever be able to see your art, would you still make art?
I would pretend that people will be. Somebody's gonna
I think
see
you would make it just in case.
Just in case someone sees
just
it.
in case,
And but if you were absolutely sure that that there's nobody else, so like a kind of solipsism, that you're alone in this universe, I think
Which I am, of course.
I think you would just get depressed and kill yourself.
Okay.
Personal. Getting personal.
That's what you should do. Oh shit, YouTube is going to cancel
that's
us.
what you should not do. That's what you should totally not do.
You can be racist, you can be but don't swear.
It was a joke.
Fuck.
You can tell people to kill themselves, just don't swear.
Okay, we're demonetized now, okay.
It's over.
we weren't going to make anything.
The YouTube money, no. It had potential.
All the dollars and cents.
Anyway, I think it would actually, if you were absolutely sure that you were alone in the universe, that it would fill you with such despair that you couldn't, like, it would be hard to even live, let alone create works of art.
No.
But you might deceive yourself into thinking maybe there's a kind of like God, or like maybe someone will come at some point.
Even an alien race will discover humanity, and you're the last one to preserve its art.
I think you would find the idea of there not being anyone else so intolerable that you would make up you would make up God.
You would reject
like Voltaire or someone. Yeah, Voltaire I think said if God didn't exist, we would invent him.
Okay.
Oh, nerding out.
There goes nerding out.
Did you know that Voltaire said?
So would you create art if you would be the last person on?
I mean, I believe so, but I mean, it's hard to imagine being the only person ever. Nah, it's totally not. I am the only person ever.
But you do show the things that you create to other people.
I try not to, but I think I'm forced by
By who?
By the nature.
Other people
by the nature.
Stuff you don't
the nature of art.
No, by the nature of the world that I live in.
Uh-huh.
Where if I want to survive as an artist, I am forced to show my art just to make money
Okay.
so I can survive.
Okay.
Such a profitable thing to do.
Yeah,
so, you
totally.
really gotta
I mean-
share to the world.
Good choice.
Yeah, good choice.
Living the life, baby.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's say that we buy that.
Let's not.
yeah. For now, yeah.
But if you were really satisfied with just creating for yourself, like, isn't the very act of creating a work of art, you're externalizing something, you're putting it into a shape in the physical world most of the time? Why don't you just write it in your head?
Because through the process of making it,
Why do you need it physically?
I give it form, and I'm able to understand it better.
But why can't you form it in your imagination?
I cannot. I'm not
you're
capable
alone.
enough.
If you're alone in the universe.
Because I'm not capable enough. Because it's easier for me to perceive stuff that are
Okay.
physical and tangible.
That's a
Yeah.
good counter argument.
That makes sense because also sometimes I write an essay just to clear my ideas about
Exactly,
something.
yeah.
You put it on paper, structure your thoughts,
And that is art,
So,
my boy.
and that's
You are an artist.
but I don't consider it art. The
But I
things that I
do.
don't publish. So yeah, I don't know. It's
I think it's hard to argue against your point. Because, I mean, it is valid. I don't think you can just demand something to be... Like that you can demand this societal requirement for something to be art.
Mm.
But at the same time, I mean, is your personal diary
Let's not
a
go
work
there.
of art?
It's my personal diary.
I don't
what?
wanna.
Yeah.
I don't wanna. Let's stay abstract.
yeah. Is there any
No
difference
details.
between your diary and maybe a film you created for yourself or an object or something?
I try
Is it the same?
to make them both the same. Yeah.
You try.
Yeah.
But okay.
But
No.
I think like
But would you
No, I think
consider
that-
your personal diary a work of art?
I consider everything I make a work of art, darling. No, but no, I try to. I
Aestheticist,
try to.
That's what the...
I definitely
the-
try to, but I think I'm.
Fuck off. I was
No,
trying to
you fuck
say
off. Man, you asked me something. I tried to answer.
But
and
I
you-
had something witty to say, a
Yeah.
cultural reference. Anyway,
Okay, go on, go on.
No,
come on, I
Screw
insist. I
you.
insist. Come on.
Anyway, I think it was Oscar Wilde that said that the way you live is a work of art.
Wow.
Anyway,
Wow. You really add something to this conversation, don't you?
for the educated people
Yeah.
whom
Oh,
you're
yeah.
not
No, I
addressing
wouldn't,
clearly.
wouldn't know, no.
Anyway, yeah.
No, I think I try to like do even my personal diary to make it a work of art, but I think I'm still limited by the technology of my time. No, by the by the way I was brought up with. I'm having a difficult time expressing myself now. Wait, I should make a movie about it.
Why? Maybe this is a good question. When you make a film, why
Yes.
are you making a film? Why are you expressing yourself in the form of a film?
Because it's an artistic form that seems very.
Who said
Close
that
to
it's
me.
an artistic form?
Oh.
Where did you get this from?
No, I was brought up with the idea that this is an artistic form. Maybe
So-
it's not.
You are expressing yourself in a manner that was given to you by society.
I am, yes.
So in a
But
certain
I'm also
sense, your self-expression, which you say serves only yourself, is not really completely dependent only on you. It is dependent on
of course.
society.
Well, yeah, of course. And my thinking is dependent on the language in which I was brought up. So what's
Exactly.
your point here? That I'm unable to think because I don't speak a language, or what?
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't speak a language, that would be a different podcast. If
Oh,
you can
yeah.
actually think.
That there won't be there wouldn't be a podcast actually.
But yeah, it's interesting because the medium that you choose has always been something public, something defined by its public usage, by its being something in society that you took from society and then express yourself in the same
Yeah, but that's
way
just a
than
framework
other people.
that offers you place to express, because
That structures
You still
what
need
you're
a place.
expressing. Like
yeah.
the it's not enough to just be saying things on your own. You're using some criteria given to you by society to help structure your self-expression.
But maybe we could say
So
that
it's-
for everything in a way, no? Because
We definitely could, yeah.
I mean, of course,
all
even
the
in language,
ideas we
you're
get,
using
yeah,
something given to you by society
even
to
language is not
express
something
yourself.
private. You use something.
Wait for your turn, please.
Hey. It's a podcast. It's a conversation.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. Come on.
But in regards to language, it's just a practical thing. Like you're using a tool given to you by society to be able to communicate with other people, to run your life, to be able to
Or to
live.
communicate with yourself. What if
But
you're writing down
now we're
something
talking
yourself?
now we're talking about a very specific kind of activity that has no really obviously practical purpose. It doesn't serve. It's not food. It's not. That doesn't give you money. It's kind of self-serving. It's serving your expression, your ego, but it is doing this in dialogue with what society is giving to you. You are you're expressing yourself in manners given to you by society, in very specific manners given to you by society. Like, why would you make a film? You could
No,
just
because I was still brought up in this societal manners or whatever,
yeah.
where if you want to express yourself, you have these options, so you just have to choose it. I'm unable to think of a new way to express myself.
Exactly. So
Yeah, but that doesn't
you're
make
not
it
independent
art.
in this.
But
You're not actually
we're
just
not
doing
talking-
it. If you were just doing it for yourself, why aren't you just satisfied with your own thoughts?
I told you already, because my own thoughts are not concrete enough for myself to understand them
But
correctly.
when you make them concrete, why do you make them concrete in this very specific manners that are dictated
Because
to
I
you?
don't have other manners to make them concrete.
Yeah, exactly. So you can never really express yourself independently of society. And
But that's not
independently
the
of culture.
question.
Yeah, but that's
That's not the
you also
question, because in
cannot
the end, I
stop
still
bullying
have
me.
No, fuck
You also
you.
cannot have a language independent of society, and you can still think for yourself. You can still have a diary for yourself.
Yeah,
You still
exactly.
get all the concepts from society. So I think that is
Yeah,
a valid thing to say.
As a tool,
Yeah.
Liberals no like
Yeah.
destroyed with facts and logic.
I think there are a distinction has to be made there. Like I tried to make unsuccessfully, apparently. The language is just a tool. It's a practical tool to help you live. But when you come to this specific use of language, even when it serves your self-expression, not some kind of more obviously practical purpose.
But Martin said that it is a practical purpose for him. He tries to understand himself, to concretize his thoughts, to understand things better. The same way as a person might write their thoughts down to understand something better.
But that's if we widen the meaning of practical, I mean practical in the sense of just living, finding
Like
food,
eating
and stuff. No?
Okay.
Nah. I just used the
But that's just,
Slovene interjection.
but wait, then you're just like, do you have a hierarchy of needs?
You actually do. That's Maslow.
Yeah, and it's been disproven countless times.
Oh, fuck. Damn. Then I'm not. I have no argument.
But if it's just
Surely there is a hierarchy.
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
like
proven
the
that like even people in concentration camps were doing art, which is very
yeah,
highly
yeah,
on the
they
hierarchy
saw that it's
without
not so that you have to
satisfy all the basic needs for the top ones.
It goes up and down. Like you can skip and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's still
So it's
a
not a pyramid.
hierarchy.
Is it?
But it's more flexible, I suppose. But the point is, like, you
But that's the point,
are
the hierarchy
saying,
is not
if
flexible.
you
you
don't
are saying
eat,
that
you
it's a
die.
practical value. Yeah.
If I
So
don't
surely-
express myself, I die.
Yeah, you actually don't.
Yeah, you're
But
right.
you can prioritize dying over. I like you can prioritize writing something than
Very Freudian.
yeah, like you can have a piece of bread or you can have a piece of paper and you prioritize writing something
Yeah,
down.
and
So you can do that decision.
But
So it's not a
if you
strict
don't
hierarchy.
eat,
Yeah.
because you prioritize.
Yeah, but that's an external
dying.
view. But that's an external view of hierarchies. I think that internally you can still
no,
choose
internally you
to.
die.
Yeah, but that's an external view of how like you should prioritize things. But internally, you can choose to prioritize.
You can choose, but
piece
like
of paper.
factically, you're going to cease to exist
Yeah.
if you don't eat. Whereas
Yeah.
if you don't express yourself, you are
But-
going to keep existing.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
that's
know.
a
That's not
biological.
If you
external.
express yourself,
Yeah,
and you
that's
pu- and
external.
you
That's like
give it-
external
How is it
biological view. Like
biological, how is
Yeah.
the biological view
like
external?
That's like
You're actually an
just
organism.
just the fact that
Wow.
you have
You're
to
so
do
wrong.
something. Just the fact that you have to do something in order to survive doesn't make it that you have to prioritize that. You can
No,
still choose to.
I'm not saying that you
prioritize.
should prioritize. I'm just saying that you're going to die if you don't
Yeah,
eat.
but you don't
So,
have to.
like,
it doesn't have to
ontologically
have.
speaking, it is like if you look at yourself as a being that has.
If.
We were.
You can.
What
you
does
can be.
if mean?
You
What-
can be in a
what is a
concentration
being?
camp and choose that this piece of paper is more important to you than your survival, and
you
it
can,
is
but,
a
but
more core value to you then.
we're talking about a hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
Like, what does an organism the organism that is the human being need to survive?
But in that context,
it needs food more.
No, in that
than
context, it needs
self-expression.
more obviously to write this piece of paper down and die.
That's just its estimation of what it thinks it needs.
Yeah.
But if you're actually going to let it do that, if someone actually decided to keep doing that, they're just going to die.
But why do you
and
think?
most of the time they don't do that.
Why do you
They
think?
might neglect their physical nourishment for a certain period to create,
Yeah.
but then they're going to eat.
Like, but
You
why
need
do you
that
think
more.
this is unnecessarily a more? Why would this be a necessary need all the time? Like you
Because
can
people,
choose.
people want to survive.
Because
most of
otherwise
the
you
time.
die.
But you don't. Yeah. But that's also an option. You don't have to prioritize living all the time ever.
Then,
Then you die. Yeah.
you don't have to subjectively decide to prioritize living, although
Yeah.
the hunger is going to make it pretty hard.
Yeah. But
I think you're going at some point you're going to get so hungry that you're going to eat.
People
you're-
go on
You
hunger
won't be able,
strikes.
like
No.
People go on
very
hunger
concretely
strikes.
at some point.
Yeah.
At some
People
point,
starve themselves to death
Yeah.
in protest.
as a decision because
Yeah.
they're
So obviously there's
because their
another need.
suffering is. Of course, you can make this radical choice,
Yeah.
but it's very radical. I don't think you can extrapolate it to general artistic creation. Like most of the time, if an artist is going to get very, very hungry, he's just going to go eat.
Most of the time, artists are very, very hungry.
Not today, to be fair. Like
they-
today, it's not so common.
I don't know. Maybe because I had breakfast, but otherwise,
So I wouldn't diminish what Martin is saying, like that this is
I
a
would.
practical value, that creating art is a practical value to him. I wouldn't diminish that just because of some ideas of what is your more basic and less basic
No,
need.
I would absolutely diminish that.
Yeah, see, but I disagree.
I mean, I find it baffling that you would disagree with this. If you don't eat, you
yeah.
die as a being.
Yeah,
You can choose to prioritize your self-expression, or maybe because of a religious cause, or maybe
Yeah.
because of a political cause, to
Yeah.
starve yourself to
Yeah.
make a point.
or just be
But you're
engrossed
going
in your
to
piece of art to such a degree.
The fact of the matter is that if you don't eat, you're going to die.
I'm aware of that.
As a whole, if you look at a whole, as a certain being as a whole, as a human being as a whole, I think you can't deny that getting nourishment is more important for the existence of this being.
Yeah,
Maybe not for the subjective
yeah. Not for the
life of this
subjective.
person,
Yeah,
yeah.
but for the whole of the being,
yeah.
surely.
But why would you take this externalist view when talking about art?
That's not externalized view.
But you just said that
it's-
subjectively it doesn't have to be that way.
I think what you're doing is just looking at this subjective realm as though it's the only thing that matters. Like you can reduce people to just what they want, what they think they want, what they're aware of, just to awareness.
Mhm.
Why would you do that? I don't think you perceive yourself in this manner all the time. I think you perceive yourself as an embodied being with certain needs that affect your thinking as well.
Yeah, I don't.
So why would this be externalized? It's not like I'm some scientist looking at like these holes. I experience myself as a living organism, and sure I can think myself into killing myself for some cause, but I can't deny that I have a very basic need that is the condition of my existence.
I would think that subjectively you could perceive your need to create as something more dire, something more important than your need to survive.
I can delude myself
I think.
into that, but the fact of the
Would
matter
it
is
be
that
delusion?
I
if I
agree with
won't eat,
Primož here.
Would it be delusion?
Yeah, it would be.
I mean, it would be delusion because, strictly speaking, if we're talking about different things, how important are they for the existence of a being?
Yeah. Okay,
Surely you can't limit existence just to my psyche.
So for example, if in Japan, there's this quote of harakiri, right? Like if there's a war, the leader takes his own life, for example, to prevent the war. So all of them were deluded because they prioritized some
Do you think they were doing like a good thing?
I would think so, yes. They prevented a war.
Oh, but those
It's not a army, like somebody from the army who jumps on a grenade, for example, to save his comrades.
I would throw my comrade on the
Is he deluded?
Yes, he is.
He's deluded.
Yeah.
But the fact
To
of the
save
matter is,
another life.
Yes.
I mean,
So
deluded.
Why would you
should
not save your
always
life?
Depends.
You should-
Deluded in what sense?
So you should always
I just
save your own.
enjoyed messing with
No,
him.
I don't think. The examples you're giving are actually examples of
The extreme.
beings killing themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their decisions to kill yourself because you think some idea is more important for you. But the fact of the matter is that you do die.
Yeah. And you can. So are you
And
deluded?
if we're talking about a general hierarchy of needs, I don't think you can in general say that all artistic creation is so radical.
No, I'm just saying that it doesn't
It
have
is
to be in
possible
such a
to
way.
just
that it has to be-
deny a very basic need of your of yourself as an organismic whole.
Yeah.
But
Like for
I
example,
think that's a delusion. Yeah.
if somebody creates a piece of art for practical purposes, for purely practical purposes, I wouldn't say it's delusional if he chooses to do that instead of taking care of his more basic needs.
What?
I wouldn't say that's a lesser, like that's a inferior, like thing, an inferior value or something. Like you can do
Except if you
if you
starve
do.
and die, then it is an inferior value.
I'm not sure. Like,
Because
I
if
think,
you won't make the
but is
art,
that the only purpose of life, to keep on living? Is
Well,
that
well,
the
don't
ultimate
go there.
value or something?
Don't go to the debate of the purpose of life,
Yeah.
because we'll never end this
Okay,
podcast.
yeah, but I think it hinges on that, like what you're saying, that this surviving is the purpose
I
of
mean,
what you should do.
that's a
that's
very
a-
deep rabbit hole.
Yeah. But I wouldn't say if I
But I would
think
certainly I would say that it is the purpose of life to keep on living. You can deny this purpose
okay.
because you delude yourself,
Okay.
but I think it is something very basic to life
Okay, then let's
to keep
bracket
existing.
let's bracket this conversation and return to an artist who, for practical purposes, creates a piece of art. So what I understood is you would say this is
I would say that this is not
lesser.
all that practical.
Yeah,
I think it's a more abstract kind of theoretical kind of thing to make art.
The same
It's
way
not so
in which-
necessary as
How do you
eating.
define practical?
Yeah, is it the same as reading a book of philosophy, for example, to educate yourself about life and stuff, less practical?
Yeah, all that is less practical than, say, cooking a meal.
So you would say it's the
sleeping.
same. So it's the same to create a piece of art for yourself or to go read Plato?
No, it's not the same.
Why?
I mean, reading Plato is even more theoretical.
So even less practical?
But
But-
what's the point? Why does it matter? here
Because
for our argument.
because
Because
because he's saying, I think, that you delude yourself when you say that you're
Yes, this is
only
what I'm
for
saying.
practical that you're only creating for practical
Aljoša.
reasons. So that's what he's saying, right? That he is not really having a good enough practical reason to
Why is this
create
turning into a roast?
just for
actually?
himself. But then he could argue back that yeah,
a
you
very
don't.
unfunny one.
Then he could argue back that why would you read Plato? That obviously has no practical.
Yeah, you
Of
very
course.
diminishing,
It has no,
diminishing practical
because
value.
I think what distinguishes humans is that we have a certain subjective life that drives us to do unpractical things. I think it's a spectrum.
Like this podcast.
Mm.
For example, although it's more practical than, say, just reading for yourself or making art for yourself.
It's not gonna be monetized, but yeah.
I think it's a spectrum, like this practical, theoretical thing. Well,
Spectrum.
on one hand,
Just like you.
Yeah, that's more of a you thing.
On the deep end. On the one hand, the very practical stuff, that's just the basic things that keep you alive as an organism, and then the more higher needs that are more theoretical, like more directed towards your subjective life, that aren't so necessary to survive, but still you are driven towards them because they play a kind of a higher function
Okay, I still
of
don't
self-expression.
I still don't get how this is important to our argument at all.
Because I think I'm arguing against the idea that creating art is, you can just say it's practical in the same sense that
Yeah, but
making food is practical.
no, we just said it's practical for lack of a better term.
Yeah, it could be less
It
practical.
has a
yeah,
function for the
It-
individual creating
it
art.
can
Is
be
that
just-
better for you?
Yeah. What I want to get towards is that it's less practical than all those things.
Yeah, okay.
It has
but
a-
Okay,
that's not
maybe
important.
let's-
Why isn't it important? That's the whole discussion.
What?
Okay, then
That's
let's
what
also
we're talking about.
let's
What?
also bracket that and say then can
Why?
Martin argue back to you like, yeah, also philosophy is a very marginally practical thing, so I can create art for a very marginally practical reason and not make it public, and this is still a valid way of doing art. Could he argue that back?
I don't know what you asked.
So like you're saying that he could not practically he could not create art as a practical purpose because obviously it is such a marginally practical thing, right? And he could then argue why would you read Plato if it's even less? Obviously he can create for this practical purpose without having to
But
make it
that's
public.
the thing. I'm not saying that you don't want to do the less practical things.
Mm.
Like read Plato. Of course we want to read Plato.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yes.
It's a given. But it's a different kind of wanting and needing than needing food.
Okay.
And just saying
Yeah,
that it's
okay.
all practical. I mean, everything is practical, but everything we do is a kind of practice. But I think that just makes the kind of distinction between practice and theory and blurs it. I don't think that's productive. What we were talking about earlier on is what makes this kind of practice, this artistic practice that you pretend to be doing for yourself, different from you making food for yourself. I think there must be some kind of a difference. Like food, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, who argues otherwise?
I mean, when you
mean,
just said it's all practical, like
Well,
people
yeah,
would say,
different-
okay, so
different
for
levels of
you,
practical,
for
but-
you, that's
yeah,
what
okay.
I want.
Yeah, okay.
okay.
But I think
Maybe-
we agree on
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
We've
okay.
been
Maybe
agreeing
it's
on that for the
different
last
levels
half
of
hour.
practical. Yeah, but it's still practical. yeah.
Everything is in a certain sense practice, but I think we should limit the term to be able to get towards. So, what are you actually doing when you say you're doing art? I agree that it is a kind of existential practice, this self-expression. But what makes it different from other practices? That's what I'm curious
Yeah,
about.
then what makes other practices different from other practices as well? Like, I don't know.
For example,
Is that
eating
really
eating
important?
food.
Yeah, what does it make different
It's
from
just the basic
sleeping?
nourishment I need for my organism to survive. Why do I need
Sleep.
to self-express
Why don't you
in
sleep?
an artistic form? That's what I want to know.
So maybe we could say it's the same as you read Plato because you want to learn about new ideas, or you externalize some of your thoughts because you want to see them structured in a clear way.
Yeah, you want to understand yourself better, the way you think and feel.
Okay, I bought that in the beginning.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
what's the point of this debate again?
what is the question?
I don't know who posed the question.
Who asked?
Can art ever be private? Yeah, that's maybe the real
Yeah.
question.
Okay, so
Private in
actually,
the sense of ownership, or private in the sense of not putting it out there?
Yeah, both.
No, for the ownership.
Yes.
Yes, for
Yes,
the
so
not
private
putting it out there.
if we tie it back to what we're talking about, can this art, if we accept that it is a practice, but a different kind of practice than, for example, something biological and so forth, or going to work, so it's an existential practice that's more directed towards trying to clear up your subjective life through self-expression, something like that. Is this really possible to do without being in a cultural framework and without having other people recognize your self-expression? Is it really valid enough? Because then you again have a spectrum. For example, a diary, which is entirely private.
Spectrum.
I caught it.
So a private diary, but then you have a published diary.
Mhm.
It's already has a different kind of status. Doesn't it also affect how you're going to create it? Is it like you're already entering into the realm of art the moment you start talking about a published diary as a work of art?
So if you create something without the intention of ever publishing it, and then it gets published and recognized as art, wow.
Right.
Can it not be art then?
It's a sign
If
from
it
the
doesn't
God.
have this intention of ever becoming art?
I think it's earlier than that. Already when, for example, when I'm writing a diary, I really don't care. I don't actually write a diary, but if I did,
Maybe you should.
you wouldn't be thinking, how am I going to express myself? There's no real structure. You're just trying to put it all out.
Yeah.
When you're creating a work of art,
I try to do the exact same.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I
Because
try
you
to
said
do.
that you express yourself in the frameworks provided to
Yeah,
you by
but-
society.
Yeah, and so do I when I write a
So you're-
diary. I still have an idea what a diary is, and I try to have a free flow through the framework of what is a diary.
Yeah. I would disagree with what you said, Primož, that you structure
Yeah.
it, that you don't
Get
structure it. Like I think that when I write a diary, I actually try very hard to structure it in a certain way for me to be comprehensible. Maybe a few years later when I'm gonna read it, the same way I try to structure.
But you don't structure it according to what society wants you to structure it.
Yeah, but I think that's how I structure my stories is very similar to how I structure my diary. It's a very similar
Well,
attempt.
Wow, your diary must be very boring then.
Okay, so thank you guys for watching this podcast. See you next time. Me and Primož. Bye.
how will we edit him out?
yeah.
Just a black square in the middle.
Just a black square.
I don't believe you.
You don't
What-
believe
what
that
you're
I
saying,
am
that you're-
structured the same way.
I don't know about your short stories because I don't read them.
Okay. Next time, me alone.
Lucky you.
I should go back
But
to
your
doing my solo
movies,
videos.
Like
Yeah.
for example, you make a lot of slow movies,
Mm.
and that's a very specific artistic practice that you've taken up from society.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't think you've taken up the way you structure your diary in even remotely the same manner.
Hmm.
There, you're really just concerned with how you're going to structure things for yourself,
Mhm,
and
I see.
other than language, which you're using just as a tool,
Yeah, I see.
not just in its meanings, but not necessarily in its formal
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
cultural
Yeah.
connotations.
Yeah.
Whereas with art, you are taking up these formal
Yeah.
cultural frameworks.
As a piece of art, you try
That
to
determine how
structure
you-
it in such a way that it's gonna be open for an observer from the outside. But my diary could be incomprehensible.
Yeah.
But that's same. Okay, you're right. So we do structure a piece of art differently. So
Do you agree?
how do you structure your art?
I kind of zoned out there for a
Do you
second.
structure
Sorry.
the things that you do? Are they structured in such a way that anybody could look at them and be
I don't
completely
care.
appreciate them? But
No.
but if you just try to think now,
When I do art in the way that I want to, no.
then it would not be comprehensible.
As I said earlier, I am limited by the framework that was given to me by society, and sometimes when I do art, there is still this, like I don't know, this intention that I know, okay, this will be published, so I adapt it towards this idea of what public will be able to perceive.
Mm-hmm.
But when I do it for real,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care, and I that's also why I focus on the fact that I will not be publishing it, because then that's when I can truly express myself the way I want to.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't not care.
Try me, bitch.
That's what I'm trying to say. You're saying you don't care how you do it because you're doing it just for yourself. But the way, as you said yourself, the only way you can do it is already culturally mediated.
But everything is culturally mediated, so that's not really
even the
important
way in
here.
which you go to the toilet.
Yeah, the way in which I think about what I'm gonna do is culturally mediated already.
Of course.
Yeah, but that's irrelevant.
No, it's not irrelevant.
Yeah, it is.
Because it actually restructures how you do things
Well,
and
yeah, but
determines
but
what
that's-
you can
that's the
actually
framework-
do.
that's the
Your
framework I
language,
cannot-
for example, your
That's
language.
a framework I cannot get rid of. I cannot think out of this
I'm
frame.
not going to respond to what you're saying. I want to make my point.
But
Already,
Invited this child here.
already language structures what you can think.
Yes, and that is
So
a
it is
framework I cannot
important.
abolish.
So it is important what society tells you what you can do.
yeah, but
Yes.
things can still
How
be
you're going
private.
to go to the toilet is
Yeah.
society tells you how to do it.
And yet it's
And
private.
also society tells you how you can self-express.
And yet
Yes.
going to the toilet is a private
Exactly.
thing that
so
you
you're
don't
not
share.
independent. Sorry.
I never said I
Going
was.
to the toilet is a private thing that you don't share, right? You can still have private things in a society that
yeah,
tells
but
you how to
that's
do
a
things.
different question. That's a question of whether how we live is culturally mediated. Yes, everything is culturally mediated.
So, yeah.
So you are structured by what your society tells you, how your culture tells you how to do it.
Yeah, but that's a
And
structure
that
you can't get rid of.
And that,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what
So
I'm
it's
trying to tell you.
unimportant to talk
and
about it.
And it includes art. The way you can express yourself is culturally mediated.
Yeah, and I never said
it is
it's not.
structured
I never
by
said it's not.
Yeah.
The
It
only
could-
structure I'm getting rid of is the final part where I'm gonna present the art or I'm not gonna present the art, because that's the
Yeah.
only part of self-expression where I
Yeah.
actually have agency over it.
Yeah, it could both be culturally mediated and private, right?
Yeah.
But what if we accept that even art is in this sense that you are constrained by your culture when you're creating art and how you're self-expressing, you are always, when you are expressing yourself, meeting some expectations. That's a certain criterion for something to be considered art. And if you don't meet it, you're actually unsuccessful in expressing yourself.
But the same way we go to the toilet and there's a cultural criteria why when you were successful at going to the toilet, right? So it still is a private thing to do, right?
Yeah.
So what are the
that
unsuccessful
doesn't deny
occasions to
deny my point.
But
What like in that specific situation we do exclude society from it.
and in that particular situation,
We
he
don't.
excludes art from.
He
No?
can't.
He can't.
I think you
He
can.
He can because
Just like how you can include the public in your toilet going habits,
for example, say that
you
you
can
go
also
to
exclude it from the artistic expression.
say that you go to a new country and you try to learn ways to, I don't know, say hello in the new language. You're going to, if you want to express your greeting, you're going to have to meet a communal, not just individual criterion for your expression to be considered, even to yourself, successful. If you're going to be unable to say Guten Tag, you aren't going to be able to express hello in that particular framework.
Yeah, but
And the same way, if you don't make a film,
But you are
or just a general, if you don't self-express yourself in this artistic manner, in the ways culture tells you to do it in a very minimal fashion, maybe, then you're not actually even to yourself meeting your downloaded conceptions of art.
But you are sorry.
You were just naturally bored.
Yeah, you're standing in for the audience now.
This is the audience. No, but now you're comparing language and art as equal, and
As forms of expression.
equal forms of expression, and I'm not.
What?
I don't consider them equal forms of expression. As we already said, the function of language is inherently sociological, but for me the function of art is not. So this argument of yours does not work in my
But you
framework.
said before that you are constrained by the
I am,
societal.
yes.
So it is sociological.
Yeah, it is, but the function that I get from this expression is not sociological. Just the framework that
But
was
the
given
but
to
the
me
same with
for
That's what I'm saying.
expression.
For you to be able to have to even exercise this function of art, you already need culture.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's
This is it.
Done. Thanks for tuning in.
and
See you
yet
next
it can
year.
be private, no?
Sorry,
And yet it can be private, no?
but it's not. It's never private.
I don't know.
It can't really be private because it's the actual activity you're doing is already culturally mediated.
But
the privacy
does that exclude
there is
the
a
idea of
privacy in the
privacy?
sense of like specifically there's no one else around and no one else is seeing it, but it is all done under the assumption of being perceived by culture.
But language is an inherently public thing, and yet you can write a diary that is completely private. It doesn't make just the fact that the way you're gonna express yourself entirely culturally.
You can make it. You can do it privately, like
Yeah.
you write for yourself,
Yeah.
but you weren't doing it really just on your own. You were doing
Yeah.
it in the cultural framework.
Yeah. But also
And
Martin is
for-
doing art in the culture.
For you to
framework.
be able to say to yourself that I wrote a sentence in Slovene,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
you were already working
You towards reaching some criteria. Yeah. I know.
for society.
Yeah, yeah,
You were not alone anymore.
Yeah. But also Martin
Because
is
humans
not
can
alone.
never be alone.
Yeah, and I never said you can be.
He's not alone. He's just doing it for himself.
Yeah, that was the original idea. I never said that I am
Okay.
working outside of the
In his
framework
own
of
way
society or
complete-
whatever.
He
No, I'm just
exists
trying
completely
to
on
grasp
his own wave
yeah,
that man cannot understand.
that he wants to say.
Hello.
Hey,
Yeah.
he likes watching movies,
Yeah,
listening
wow,
to music.
that's a niche Instagram reference.
It is, yeah. I was
Jake
just saying that I
Krantz.
try to grasp some sense of agency over my artistic expression
But
inside the framework that was given to me by society. Yes.
but that's the point I'm trying to make. That
Okay, good for you.
is that you're not able to make art for yourself without making it for others.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I agree. Yeah, you are correct.
Wouldn't you agree? He's obviously not willing to cooperate.
I totally agree. Yeah, yeah, you are correct.
Sorry,
I
what
can
was
see the
your
rounds of my
thesis?
You weren't
I was-
listening.
I was sorry.
Sorry, you're just so
I was too
boring.
busy. I was putting on the hood. So.
You're just so boring.
I'm
bro.
the only alpha.
Yeah,
What fuck?
Sigma.
You're surrounded.
You can't really make art for yourself without making it for others.
So
Because you're always operating under the assumptions of your culture.
Mhm.
For even to be able to not to get like specific recognition, but to be able to say to yourself, I've made something
Mhm.
that is an artistic form of self-expression in my society,
But you can do that
even if
for
you
a
don't
diary.
publish it.
Yeah, but you
Yeah,
can make it for
but-
yourself.
In the final product, you don't have to publish it.
That was the whole idea.
No, the whole idea was if you're really just, is your work of art really just an internal thing, like you're just working out your thoughts on your own,
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
just
with
for
the
yourself.
tools you were given. Sure, yeah.
You're always not just tools, like it's not just a tool,
But
the tool, the form that you're using actually determines how you express yourself, and it also tells you what's the criterion for you to be able to say that you've expressed yourself. If I just make random noises, you're not going to say that I expressed myself
I don't know, experimental films and experimental jazz.
successfully in the Slovene language.
But what
Yeah, but
what would
it's
you
not
say?
Slovene
sorry.
language, it's art.
Yeah, it's just a different kind of criterion.
What
Yeah,
would
but then do you define art as a very specific form? Because not really. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, it's just anything that
it's a
helps me
kind of-
self-express. If I
But then
go
we're back at
into
the
a
beginning
room,
of the conversation.
if I go into the room and start saying blah 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 blah, blah, blah and have a feeling that made me express myself.
you had a B?
Oh, thank you. That's me expressing myself.
I don't think you would think that.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, if
I do,
if we
actually.
widen it to just this everything I do is expression. Okay, but I think we're talking about a specific kind of expression here.
So if we take an artistic form, what would you say about people? What would you say about people that write poetry as a way of therapy?
Fucking losers.
Are they? Is that art? Is this some borderline case? Because people do that, right?
No, he would declare it not art.
They're writing poetry. Of course, it's art.
But they only
it can
for
be bad art
therapeutic.
according to society.
No, it's not good or bad. We're beyond that.
That's the next topic.
yeah.
But
3 hours.
Jesus. What already?
but what if somebody feels more comfortable?
Jesus.
What if somebody feels more comfortable in this way of just expressing themselves in this vague, poetic way?
Sure.
And is that not art then? If it's
No, it is art. It is art.
But
like,
a diary is not.
No.
So if you take this
you're
form,
not using an artistic form to express yourself.
Why isn't a diary an artistic form? You said it becomes an
What
artistic
is-
form
who
once someone
decides?
publishes.
In that case, you begin to use it as an artistic form. You start to structure it specifically.
Who decides what's an artistic form?
The culture that you find yourself in.
So we say that poetry is an artistic form. So if I have some dramatic effect and I put it into a poem, you would say, oh, so you created a piece of art, it shouldn't go into the diary. Even if you find it in a diary, you're like, oh, you should. That's something to be shown. That's something to be regarded as art, just because of its formal qualities.
Try that again.
Like, if you find in my diary, you find a poem.
Yeah.
You would say so that all of my diary is just something that I used to structure my thought, but that part, when I tried to express myself in this poem, that part is art.
Yeah.
You would say.
Yeah, I would say that. I think we would naturally, because we are acculturated in a certain way, we would look for signs of artistry.
I don't know. It feels weird
Sometimes
to
it's
me.
just the intention. Declared intention might be enough. But the only reason intention is sufficient is because it immediately puts you into the framework of all these preconceptions.
So if I write, oh, today was a horrible day, and then I start just like today, this podcast, and then I start like, oh, rocks, the sky, a leaf falling, and it's
falling from
becomes
the sky. You killed someone. Now someone died, and they stepped on his head.
Exactly, like a poem like that. Like so gradually it becomes a piece of art. Then when
yeah,
that's weird.
Just like a house gradually becomes a house. Or Stonehenge gradually becomes a Stonehenge.
Okay, that's
what point? When they placed the first rock?
Okay, that makes sense.
That's a good question.
What if the first rock was already there and they placed the second one?
That's a good point.
Is the first one? What if the first rock was already there?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. That's the.
I guess when the people expressing themselves
through
that do it in decide that this is the finished product of their expression.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. The problem of vagueness doesn't apply here. I don't know.
What?
Kusmodaugi. Okay, tell us what you think about it down in the comments.
1 hour 12 minutes.
1 hour and 12 minutes?
Yeah, and we'll cut.
Then we cut out the things when Martin said.
There will also be recommendations up here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Tell us what you think.
Yeah.
Well, so
no, it's over. Shut up.
What's the conclusion?
to try to put things together. Do you still think? I mean, you probably do. Because I doubt I've convinced you. That. I mean, to summarize my thoughts, I don't think you can.
Come on, you were speaking the whole hour 12. Shut the fuck up now.
that you can create art just for yourself, because you're always operating under very specific assumptions that determine what can even become self-expression, artistic self-expression for you. You can keep it for yourself, which is kind of a shame, because it won't become a work of art for others, which might give extra meaning to it. That would be a topic that we don't have the time to deal with anymore. But it is, I think, still art. I guess what this factor of other people would add, that they would confirm you that you've successfully self-expressed yourself. in the framework of this culture, and that would actually make your self-expression more meaningful to you.
Okay, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. I think that's a nice middle ground.
So you agree with that?
Somewhat, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, my original point where we were arguing was that he said if you don't publish, it's not art, and now he said that it is art, even if you don't publish.
Did I say that?
Oh,
So
yeah,
we can
yeah.
rewind.
So yeah. So I guess
Okay.
we
No,
have
I said that I'm not sure.
Now you are.
I didn't say that. I denied that. You
Anyway, success. That's a
Publications.
success in my book.
Okay. And I would still think that I'm still skeptical about this idea of inherent value of art or inherent like some quality of something being art. I was still opening up to the public that there has to be some societal component of people declaring it art.
Yeah, but it's,
So we're still
I think it's just in this what I try to say here, that if you just artistically self-express, you might be, well, is this really like work of art,
fair.
or is just random thoughts?
Mhm.
Then others say, yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
I feel addressed by this and so forth, and then it becomes an artistic subject in a wider sense.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense to me.
Okay,
We are
very
very
nice. Okay.
Oh wow, we
Good job,
ended
good
on we ended on the agreement. Oh. Okay,
No,
bye.
too late.
Okay.
Okay, that's the podcast. Thank you for watching today's Bebeflapula Podcast. With me was Primož, Martin, and me myself. Subscribe. Let us know in the comments if you have any things that you would want to raise with regards to this conversation. I'm very happy to discuss anytime. So.